Hello, everyone, and welcome to Weekly Manga Recap here on March the 8th of 2023. I am Nick, here joined by Quinn, and it's a Manga Talkie Day. Are we ready to talkie manga talkie?
It'd be weird if we weren't, like if we just got in here and we were just like, so I'm just going to kind of stare at the screen and Avery so often may make mouth noises, but not like fun ones, just like...
Oh, okay. just the saddening or disappointing ones.
Just the ones you kind of make as you're just like, life. You know? Just like that. I don't know. That's a great, not fun mouth sound to make. You should learn. Anyone who's listening, take cues from Nick right there. That was A+, not fun mouth sound.
Okay, if you ever want to be not fun, just look to me for examples.
That is not true. You're so fun and electric. I would be remiss if I did not talk. We were just before this podcast talking about vampire titties. And I would be remiss.
You know, like we do, sometimes.
As sometimes comes up, I would be remiss if I did not mention that I was playing a vampire in the newest season of Dice Funk that you can check out right now. Dice Funk Season 10 Resubian. You can find it basically everywhere. It's on Podbean and YouTube and Spotify and all those fun places. You can just type in Dice Funk. You can see it, Season 10. It's very fun, and we are like really far ahead of the episodes right now in terms of like what's being put out to what's being recorded. We have like 4 months ahead of what you're currently listening to. So I know all these wild things that happen, and I'm just sitting here being like, ooh, it's gonna be really crazy when they get to that episode. But go check it out. It's a lot of fun.
It's been very nicely hyped up by some people just in our kind of peer groups have kind of been very much prepping me for it. So it's definitely something I'm looking forward to checking out myself. Yeah, Ronald McDonald is so
John Cena
about this. Yeah, I mean John Cena, but I don't know if I take his opinion seriously anymore after what happened Monday. So
what did he do?
He interacted with Austin Theory.
Okay. It's understandable.
He insulted him, but it's for the purpose of them both making money, so I don't know.
I should also note, as mentioned, Ninja just brought it up, there was a movement in our Discord to get Austin Yorsky on this episode to promote Dice Funk. He says he will be on anytime I want, but I felt bad asking him on short notice. But the only reason most people want him on, they're like, yeah, you could promote Dice Funk Season 10. But mostly, it's a super serious chapter of Mashle this week.
Mashle chapter.
They just wanted to continue the idea that I've been gaslighting Austin this entire time. So, no Austin this week, but maybe next week will be just as serious and he can come in that time.
That's right.
Oh my God! Can I convince Austin to read Monster Musume or whatever the fuck it is?
Quinn, I think you probably can.
What if I just give him a sample of it? Like you just had to see a little bit of it, and then you can check it out. I convinced him to watch Lost and Simpsons, so I'm doing pretty good on convincing him to watch.
Yeah, there's hardly any titties in those, so.
Well, it depends on where you search for it. It depends on what words you use. Remember, Marge Simpson was in Playboy for some reason.
Yes. I'm not going to unpack that because it gets into all sorts of weird things about the degree to which she's sexualized. It's like the way that people think about Marge Simpson, and then you carry that over into the fact that she also has... There's a lot of sexy stuff involving her out there. Like, it's kind of lets us delve into a lot of people's psyches more than I would like to be inside their minds right now. No judgment, just I don't want to know that about you.
Oh, so you don't want to know my opinion about Marge Simpson nudity?
Not really.
Okay, that's fair. I'm going to keep them to myself then. And this is going to be a little secret we're going to have between each other.
I don't know if I want to know that that's a secret between us. Can I just like go back and erase the last 30 seconds of our conversation so this has never been a part of it? Okay,
Absolutely.
it's gone.
It's gone now.
Manga,
Yeah.
nothing to do with cartoons. So
some of these get anime, which are cartoons.
no, it's ridiculous.
Okay.
So My Hero Academia, chapter number 382. Don't let him go. Don't let him go.
Don't let him go, Nick.
So
I mean, it's a romantic chapter.
In a way. So there's I kind of have a problem with this chapter, not in terms of content, but occasionally I do find myself running into this issue with My Hero, which is it's presented in a way that I know is meant to, like, you know, because of the like the reveal that's going to be coming about, you're supposed to, you know, like there's supposed to be this like tease that builds up to it, and then you're supposed to be like, oh, and now you're pleased because of the thing that was leading up to it, and then you can look back on it and be like, ah, okay, that's what it was all like building up to. But it gets all kind of like indirect, and I'm gonna for the audio only people, I'm going to make finger quotes with my hands, clever with the way that the writing is structured. And I read manga chapters when I first wake up on Sunday mornings, and I'm not in the mood for this sometimes.
That's fair. Sometimes you start reading a chapter, you're just like, too
It's
early
like,
for this.
Look, this chapter's going to end on somebody getting punched, and I don't need you to act like it's super clever, okay? Because sometimes I'll be like, yeah, best thing ever, and sometimes I'll be like, just get to the part where they punch, and that's all.
Nick's always about getting right to that punch.
Yes, that's why, you know, I have such patience for, I don't know, Black Clover. That's a series that kind of like didn't really control itself.
It does get to the punch, so maybe
quite frequently, yes. So the beginning of this chapter kind of just sets up like that in this moment, All For One doesn't think the situation's as optimal as it can be, and Hawks is thinking it's not as disastrous as it could be. Because, it looks like things are really in All For One's favor because all the Twice clones are storming about the battlefield and everything, preventing the heroes from really doing anything. And meanwhile, mainline All For One is going to hit people with his stuff.
Oh, no.
So we do get a flash of the Twice clones also like trying to create, I believe, Dabi and All For One and Shigaraki clones amongst the crowd of them. But when the Shigaraki clone touches the ground, it doesn't cause a decay to go off. Nothing happens. And we get a flashback to basically explain this. This is all happening in the past at some indeterminate point.
It is astounding as the next page is like a far off action shot, a close up shot of Uraraka, and then two blank panels just filled with narration.
Yes. The way that things are laid out is Tsuyu in it could be worse, it could be raining way says, as bad as things are, they could be worse.
Shut the fuck up. Why would you say that?
Yeah. Don't say it like that, Tsuyu. Because then they say like, okay, you know, if Toga had first transformed into All For One and just blown everything up, we'd be dead. But that's not what happened. So they know that the clones created by the original Twice's double quirk could use their own quirks, but based on what Uraraka has learned, when Toga transforms, she can only use that person's quirk if she loves them. So, possibly due to some sort of compatibility issue between their quirks, Toga can use Twice's quirk, but not the quirks of the people that are created with Twice's quirk. Because, presumably, the love that lets her mimic Twice's quirk doesn't extend to the people she's trying to clone this way. Which it did kind of send me devolving down a, you know, superpower like analysis tree for a little bit in my head of like, why is it that way? Because if she perfectly mimics it, well, why? But you know, because it doesn't match that. It's just like they just say it all right here, and it's for theming purposes that Toga is a confused girl, and she's got dealing with a lot of shit right now. So her emotional connection to certain people in her villain group isn't as strong as she wants herself to believe that it is. That's all fine. It's just that having it all laid out this way very suddenly was a little bit overwhelming, I feel like, the first time that I read it.
That's fair.
So they think about this and they're like, okay, well, we got to track down the original Toga and stop her. So Uraraka thinks like, okay, well, what kind of thing is going to give her away if she's a twice and there's all these other twices surrounding her? And so Toga is in emotional turmoil right now because, she was, all gung-ho along with Dabi to kill all the heroes and utilize Jean's quirk in order to do this. And we get a flash of her naked, of course, because
why wouldn't she be, Nick? How else do you symbolize someone's in their inner thoughts if they're not nude? Except for all the times when Deku does it and all of his characters are fully clothed. But that's different. This is
totally different.
This is Toga.
Yeah, she's a villain, so she's got to be naked.
Yeah.
So
it's about expressing her vulnerability and the horniness of the author. It's trying to like expand upon those themes of like, innocence versus I'd like to draw naked women from Horikoshi.
It's a very if we delve into the author's psyche of this drawing of a silhouetted girl's boobs, it symbolizes,
Yeah, when you think about what this is really saying, because it's like, she's naked, but we cannot see her nipples, and that is evocative of the fact that if Horikoshi drew them, he'd get in trouble. He'd get yelled at, which is, of course, symbolic of heroes fighting evil.
I think you guys are confusing, like, symbolism with just, like, reality.
Oh wait, do I not know what symbolism is?
This is symbolic of how far we can push the envelope in this magazine that is intended for readers 10 to 18.
It's symbolic of the fact that there's not another character to reflect her nipples off of their eyelids like Ayakashi Triangle does.
Oh god. Anyway, in terms of actual content, Toga is having this big mental breakdown because she's like, but I love Tamura and I love Toya, but their quirks aren't working for me, even though I can use Ochako's quirk and I can use Jean's quirk. Why isn't it? I know I love them. Then she's, clawing at her face, and she's just has this big, massive 2-page spread with a bunch of word bubbles in it with Dabi saying all heroes must die, while Toga thinks to herself, why can't I become Jean? Which does tie, of course, back into her, her whole thing where she wants to become the people that she loves, and she's not able to in this moment because she can't perfectly mimic Jean's abilities. And fortunately, she's not in a very stressful situation right now, so she's got time to deal with that and step away from everything. Oh right, there's massive battle around her, so it's not a very good time to do that. Okay,
very good.
We are reminded that Uraraka always loves seeing happy people, so she zeroes in on the person that's not happy. Like, all right, she sees Toga crying in Jean's form, even through the twice mask. So Uraraka has spotted her, but we cut away from that scene where Tokoyami is still giant shadow punching the shit out of All For One. Unfortunately, it doesn't last super long because All For One's got a bajillion quirks. One of them is some sort of fireball thing that he lets off, and of course it greatly hurts Dark Shadow. When the smoke clears, he is even younger now, and he's looking increasingly Bishi. Tokoyami freaks out like this is a bad thing. He's just kind of younger. It doesn't necessarily mean he's stronger.
In my mind, I'm like, he still just looks like a regular man. Like, I keep waiting for like an aesthetic design choice that will like allow me to like instantly recognize this character out of a crowd. Instead, it's another face that like when it shows up, I'm like, who is that? Oh yeah, All For One without the mask. Okay, I get it.
if you were to get your ruler out, Quinn, you could see that his jaw is very slightly narrower.
Ooh.
Because he's younger.
That's called lore, Nick.
Is it?
Yeah, they're gonna make some I don't want to say a derogatory term, but some big geek is making a 40-minute video about like his narrow chin, symbolic of
the
power.
new form of All for One, what it means for the future.
How strong it is in comparison to his last form, which was like, I don't know, around like 30-ish All for One. This is like 20-ish All for One.
This video was made when the chapter dropped. Sorry, who am I kidding? The chapter dropped. The spoilers dropped last week, and it already has 5 million views. So what are we even doing here? So, everyone's desperately trying to still, hold all for One down, but he's let off this huge explosion. He's like, "All right, I'm going." He's just gonna leave. Yoarashi tries to send a gale to help Hawks and Tokuyami keep up. And then we get go back to the beginning narration of these two men came to realizations that the situation was actually, for All for One, perfectly optimal. Because, oh shit, Gigantomachia is here. He has arrived in the battlefield, and All for One just kind of glances almost dismissively towards him. Is like, yep, flatten them. Go kill him. So that's very bad, because we have seen, of course, that Machia is basically unstoppable unless you poisoned him. And however, Hawks has come to the realization the situation isn't that disastrous. Right, Tsukauchi? I don't know why he's talking to Tsukauchi, but
Nick, who's that?
That's the cop that works with All Might.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Maybe they're like pen pals.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, he has to communicate with him, but I don't know why whatever. Gigantomachia throws a piece of the earth.
A thing. A function of ground. Perhaps a mountain, perhaps a bunch of trees.
Throws it directly at All for One, and only when he's after he's deflected with one of his bajillion abilities does he look closer and realize that up in Gigantomachia's hair there's Kirishima and also Shinso, who presumably has fucking hypnotized Gigantomachia.
It's such so. It's almost like a really cool reveal until it's fucking Kirishima being like, "I'm here too," and I'm like,
"Yeah, I don't really get what that's."
You're like, "Cool, bro. I'm glad you're here." Doing a lot? Question mark. Shinso is kind of cool. I don't know at what point this train has to stop of a chapter ends with a new hero has shown up to save the day. I feel like we have to kind of be out of it, but maybe there's another person we can
There are several Class 1B students we haven't gotten to see do anything.
Oh my god, yeah, Kendo shows up next, fucking karate chops off one of his knees. He's like, ah! And she's like, time to chop down the competition. It's just, everyone's coming in to do their Smash Brothers reveals.
Yeah, we'll get one that'll just be, oh god. That double impact guy, whatever the fuck his whole thing is, he just runs up and just bops Shigaraki in the shins. Like, well, are you gonna use your quirk? It's like, no, I just kick you in the shins and that's it. All for One's like, a quirkless being has defeated me. Ah,
that's what takes him down. Look, I do.
Oh, your quirk is so lame. I would never want it.
I do appreciate that. We've had now a sequence of chapters that all just end with All for One getting his shit pushed in. I enjoy that. That is satisfying, but we are reaching an event horizon of characters showing up to save the day. This should be a very cool, exciting thing, but I am very exhausted now of and the chapter ends with a new hero joining the fight or turning up the heat a little bit. All right, can we just move forward? I don't really need to keep track of 17 characters in this scene.
The only thing I can presume is that Kirishima was, I guess, like bodyguarding Shinso to get him up.
Yeah, like maybe like
or something
a
like
bunch
that,
of attacks against him, and it's like, no, I'm super hard. Bling, bling, bling.
And he's like, maximum hardness, and Shinso's like, wait, you call it what?
Hey, I know I really need to preserve my voice right now for more important things. What do you call it again?
So your market is manly men. I'm not going to judge you. I just want you to be aware of what you're saying. I want to make sure that you know what you're saying.
I need you to know that you're saying something very specific. I need to educate you because I feel like you do not grasp the situation.
So yeah, that is where we are with My Hero Academia. Join us next week when, I don't know, Deku's mom shows up to help the heroes.
Oh man, that'd actually be kind of cool. She's just like, Mom, punch.
I mean, to be real,
but then she just kicks All For One in the dick.
To be very real, if for whatever reason Deku's mom shows up and kicks All For One in the dick, and that's how he loses, 100%.
That'd be a great series. Yeah, I don't think no notes. Nick, let's talk about Undead Unluck number 149. You see me now? So this chapter starts in a flashback of a character we have never met before. Mm-hmm. I had no idea who I was looking at. It's just someone saying, I wanted to be cast in a lead role. I don't want to be like my old man. And I legitimately sat here. I was like, who the fuck are we talking? Like, it took it took the first page, and then I'm like, oh right, Unseen Sean. So it makes more sense now. But yeah, we're finding a backstory that Sean, as a kid, was in like a side role, and his dad was also an actor, and apparently also kind of does like minor roles and things like that. So we cut to the present. We see Sean Datz, unseen, who is behind the unbreakable wall as Creed's undecreasing bullets are, shattering against it. And he's just, we get the explanation that by closing his eyes, he renders himself and anything he owns unseen. And it keeps kind of mixing more with the flashback as we go back to just right before this mission. And he's like, oh, no, I'm not doing that. She's like, Fuko's like, oh, but you haven't heard all the details. All I said was we keep you in custody for the time being. He's like, nah, my unseen's super handy. Everyone's like, you're a pretty cool dude. They rely on me. And I'm pretty hot commodity. So, what you're talking about is a whole separate matter. I only team up with blood brothers and people I trust wholeheartedly. And Fuko's like, oh, okay, well, then you must be, we'll just hold things down as we go, we leave. And he's like, wait.
You stay here. Yeah.
He's like, no, you need me. Like, your plan involved me, so don't you need my power? And she's like, oh yeah, definitely, but and he like kind of gives like a yeesh, okay, but just this once, does like a little pose and everything, and Fuko's like, hey, cool, thanks, this is great. But
just super chill about it.
Yeah, but she puts a little Union symbol on Sean's hat and is like, it's proof that you're one of us. Good to have you aboard, Mr. Sean. So, in the present, Fuko's like, Mr. Sean, we need your help. He's like, fuck that, I ain't doing this. You're doing shit, fucking dudes shooting nonstop bullet at us.
Bullets!
So he tries to start running away with his unseen, but his negator symbol is not something he considers himself to own, so it is still visible. So Creed sees this little Union symbol floating by, and he's like, I guess I'll shoot at that. And, he barely...
I can see the Predator's blades.
He barely escapes back into behind cover, and he's like, all right, you know what, fuck it, we're going to do this. Whips off his shirt and just starts waving a red, his shirt as a white flag to be like, I surrender, I'm not with these guys. And Creed's
this guy sucks so much.
Yeah, Creed's like, gotta kill him. Starts turning the bullets to it, but Gina jumps in the way, starts blocking with her unchange. Void reaches in and basically snatches both of them back behind the wall. And he's like, what are you doing? I thought you were, a Creed, or is basically like, I thought you guys were like a small elite force coming in between two rival forces, but you've got some guy miscast in your group. Stop toying me. I
don't remember. in the previous universe, Creed having such bizarre vernacular.
He is so on point with all of his thematic insults and discussions of characters. It is phenomenal. He's basically saying half-assed maggots have no place here, and he tosses a whole bunch of grenades. We see the other members of Union basically like unite together to, stop these grenades from going off or whatever. And, Creed's just like, they're so skilled. I gotta wait for that guy to slip up again. Come on, Mr. Miscast. And Sean just starts thinking like,
hey, Mr. Miscast.
Hey, why did you guys save a screw up like me? And they're like, he's right. You should just leave me be. I'm nothing more than a side character. And we have to cut to Sean, aka Unseen's tragedy, which is not as tragic as the others.
Not nearly.
He wants to be an actor, so he goes to audition. However, every time he blinks, he disappears. And no one knows what he's doing, so he just doesn't get parts. Everyone thinks he's doing some weird shit. And he can't help that fact about himself. So he'll never be able to be a great actor, one that could put his late dad to shame. But it's fine because other people could see me, gangsters and people like that. And he's like, this is fine. It's just a place where I'm going to be recognized, whatever. And we cut to the present where Fuko's like, Mr. Sean, you are not a side character. When people work hard to fulfill their role, from the outside looking in, it's easy to assume that there are leading and side roles. But one person's side character could be another one's leading man. Now, that said, you will not ever be on the cover of Shonen Jump. I need to stress that.
No.
You are not the lead character. It's either Andy or myself. Maybe both of us, maybe just Andy, definitely me if it's a swimsuit thing, but that kind of changes depending on the season. But look, the fact of the matter is anyone can put their all into the role they're given, and you are the coolest around, no matter what you say or anything like that. So why don't you take another good look at yourself? You're unseen. You're not miscast here. And if you want to fight back, we'll give you a hand. So Sean is like, shit. Like, they really could have just turned a blind eye to me and everything like that. But we get like a description about Sean's power renders himself and anything that he believes belonged to him as unseen. But in a previous loop, that was the extent of his abilities. However, now his abilities have expanded and we get a little thing between him and his dad where he's like, hey, Dad, don't you always hate being cast in side roles? He's like, why would I? It's like, because the leads will get all the attention. He's like, whenever I see a lead actor getting praised for their role, I feel as happy as if they were praising me. And he's like, his kid's like, how come? He's like, well, that's a good question. Maybe your being bored was enough to change my perspective. So Sean's just like, all right, you know what? Maybe this is like father like son after all, and I don't mind a side role this time. Go ahead and get him, brother. And we see that Sean has used his unseen ability to not only make himself entirely invisible, meaning he now considers the Union symbol to be a part of himself, but he sneaks Fuko over as well, who gets behind Creed and drops him with her little kung fu super move. And he just says, we're of one body and mind, but the credit goes to me. Now you see me, old man.
Yeah, all right.
Look, I do appreciate that we're going to get a chapter for Sean Unseen. It is important to get something where we're still kind of existing at this point where like we recruited 3 characters very quickly and it felt weird to not give them anything. So if you're meant to care about all of the negators, you have to do something like this for Unseen, who was never that significant of a character. He literally was like in a bad loop, kills Fuko, in the regular loop just gets eviscerated immediately. But so it's nice to see something like that here. It's not a super compelling like backstory or anything like that. Like it's one of those, again, where I feel like Tezuka was just like, shit, some of these are hard to write tragedies for. So like there's a part of me it's like, oh no, his career as an actor is done for. I mean, I guess any job he'd have would be like, well, this is weird. Why do you keep disappearing?
Why do you keep turning invisible? Like, at the frequency someone blinks.
Yeah.
So.
But it works. Like, this is not like a like finely crafted machine, but I was fine with it. And I do think the end, like, 2-page spread is pretty cool with him bringing Fuko in.
Oh yeah, I do like that. I'm kind of at the point where I just think, I mean, all right, we kind of know what he's about now. He's not a very interesting or entertaining character to me, but if he had never gotten a chapter or explanation of what his whole deal was, we would have continued to say until the end of the series, why don't we know anything about Sean? And now we do. It's like, all right, we know that now. It wasn't terrible, but I'm just kind of glad it's done.
Yeah, that's fair.
Just kind of move on to something more interesting and compelling.
I guess it also helps if they have like a coward in the group. Everyone right now is currently very gung-ho about everything.
Pretty badass, yes.
I guess you want a new Usopp every so often.
What an insult to Usopp.
No, I'm saying he's like a whole archetype. It's not as good as... All right. So... I'm sorry, Usopp.
All right. Let's move on to
talk about... King just blocked me on Twitter. What's up with that?
Hey, what did that have to do? You didn't do... I mean, you didn't say anything bad about him.
No,
so,
I've always talked about how much I love Sniper Island and how it's in my heart.
All right. Let's talk a bit about Chainsaw Man. Thank you. Chapter 122, The Prophecies. So Fami's meeting with Yoshida, I guess. Did they establish that was going to happen? I don't recall that. If they
Not
did.
Specific. I mean, it is definitely like, oh,
Yoshida
okay.
did say he had to meet with someone.
Yeah, Yoshida, like, in this moment of being like, oh, okay. As we noted before, the line of him being like, oh, wouldn't it be great if you could erase death is starting to make more sense. Like, he knows these horsemen.
So, Fami and Yoshida are at a restaurant. Fami orders honey toast, seasonal fruits assortment, vanilla ice cream, chocolate cake, oven-baked pancakes, and strawberry parfait. 5 each. So, good for her. Yeah. So Yoshida specifically has asked for this meeting. And he says, like, oh, yeah, I didn't really think you'd show up, Fami Senpai. Or should I say, Famine Devil? And she just says, you should call me Fami. It's like, I mean, okay, all right. I mean, I've heard that you devils are bad with names, but that's kind of ridiculous. Are you even trying to hide? And she says, I mean, I don't care if my identity is exposed. But she does insist on being called Fami. So it's... So,
and it's the short, easy to remember name, Nick. I'm never gonna forget Super Famicom.
Okay, so he says, all right, there's an urban legend going around lately. From the prophecies of Nostradamus.
Reliable guy.
In the 7th month of 1999, a great king of terror will descend. And, it's getting a lot of attention because of predicting the end of humanity. And, most of society just thinks it's just like, sensationalized by people, excitable students and stuff. But public safety believes otherwise. In an experiment, they had 30 convicts make contracts with the future devil!
The future rules! You're all going to die! You rules!
And then public safety had them ask when they're going to die. And in 23 out of 30 cases, the future devil predicted they'd lose their lives in July 1999. And Fami kind of very unconvincingly, tries to play this off.
And I love that. I love, the look off to the side.
It's like, he can't read me, right? And so Yoshida says, look, I know you're up to something, and public safety thinks it's connected to the prophecies of Nostradamus, so I'm here to make you talk. And if you refuse, I might have to start giving you the devil treatment. So, Big Billy Badass over here talking like he's gonna just destroy this girl, but she does just start talking and says, "The other 7 died this week, don't they?" And Yoshida doesn't say anything, but she says, 40 seconds ago, a devil appeared at East District Tamano Apartments, the first of the devils who will shepherd the world to the ultimate terror. She is a devil with the name of a primal fear. Her name is... And we don't find out yet.
What do you think, Nick? It's a primal fear.
I wonder if she's actually talking about war, honestly. Like, and just talking about Yoru.
That'd be wild if that's the case.
I mean, she did just get to the East District Tamano Apartments, so maybe she's talking about Yoru. Anyway, speaking of the apartments, we look inside one of the apartments, and this is very upsetting. It's just a guy and his partner?
Presumably his partner, yeah.
Presumably partner. And he says, like, oh, yeah, I was talking with my boss today, and he said I might get promoted next month. And she's like, oh, are you going to get a raise then? Oh, no, I mean, I don't know for sure, probably. But I bet they'll force annoying work on me, too, though. So can I buy a car? Just, no, we can take the train. All right, and the maintenance costs and insurance costs are pretty bad. Hey, you want to die? And he just says that in the middle of this casual conversation about, stuff that they're having. And she says, okay, yeah, let's do that. And they walk to the window and get up on the balcony. And the guy who was just talking about wanting to get a car looks down the parking lot and is like, huh, a car. And they just drop over the ledge and presumably die on impact with the ground.
Very likely.
So,
did I ever tell you the story? This was like shortly after my mom had her stroke, and I had my cousin over to my house, and we were sitting downstairs watching TV or playing video games over, and my mom came to like the top of like where the basement was, and she was like, Bob, I'm gonna go die now. And like I had been with my mom long enough for me to know that she just meant I'm going to bed. But I, without skipping to me, was like, all right, see you, Mom. And my cousin was like, do I need to give you a hug? Like, what was that?
You have told me that. I just have to kind of like roll with those stories at this point. So yeah, it turns out all those people that were kind of looking down at Yoru when they went to the balconies, all of them were just getting ready to jump. So they all fall to the ground, bodies are breaking, blood's flying out of orifices, and Yoru realizes, okay, something bad is happening, so she gets out her ruler sword! It's a sword made out of a ruler.
Doesn't have the same hit as Aquarium Spear, unfortunately, or Denji Spinal Cord Sword or whatever.
Or even School Uniform Ultimate Sword, whatever she called it. It's just ruler sword. So presumably it's not very strong because like
no, I love this ruler. I love this ruler, Nick.
It's just a giant ruler with a hole in it so she can grip it properly without having to like awkwardly grab around the whole base of it. So she's kind of like prepares herself with her ruler sword and then realizes that the bodies are kind of shambling and gathering together into a pile, and she realizes I misjudged. I can't win this fight. And she drops Asa's bag and turns to run as the bodies form into a naked feminine figure with too many arms.
There's a lot of arms. There are quite a lot of arms there.
It doesn't have feet, it has hands, because those are hands at the bottom. And then it doesn't have a head, it just has a bunch of arms that are kind of crossed over each other. But it does have tits.
Yeah.
So
that's important. This is obviously Nick, the Hand Devil. One of the primal fears, darkness, fire, hands, all equally terrifying, abjectly horrifying kind of things to think about.
When man first emerged from the darkness and started to use tools to help him on his way, he looked down at what he was holding, and then at what he was holding it with, and man went, "Ah! Ah!"
Man went, eek, no! Began gnawing off their hands.
So, yeah, I don't really have any clear idea what the fuck the devil is that made this. So, I guess we'll find out in a chapter or so. But but Yoru is clearly knows that this is bad fucking news. So we shall see what's going on here.
This chapter was kind of short. I do love like the beginning conversation with Fami, and I think that the scene of all the people leaping out of their apartments is going to be like an awesome scene to see animated, because you can just kind of visually like, I mean, gross. It's going to be horrifying, but like,
oh yeah,
it'll be narratively very uncomfortable to watch in a good way when it gets animated. But yeah, we'll be curious to see what happens here. I guess it's the first time though we've had like a chapter end where I'm not like, holy shit, like what's happening now? I'm just like, I wonder if it is the hand devil, because like hands are hard to draw, so maybe artists are like, oh no. But then Fujimoto was like, fuck you, I'm gonna draw 100 hands.
For whatever reason, this sequence reminded me of the beginning of The Happening, where all the construction workers, drop off and stuff, which is probably the only time I've ever seen a scene that features, that kind of act and be like, this is kind of silly. Like, it's just,
this is foolish.
The impeccable film quality of that made me like, you know what? Maybe this act isn't so horrifying to witness. So, thanks, M. Night Shyamalan, for making this scene a little bit less disturbing for me to read.
Aww, he helped.
Yeah, in a way, very roundabout sense. And that's why The Happening is a good movie.
Yeah.
So, Kaiju number 8, guys. Let's talk about that. It's chapter 81 of this manga, which features monsters and parental trauma. So, yes. So Kikaru is still in that mental landscape where, she's just a little girl still and is just kind of forced to deal with the reality that both of her parents are dead, and so she'll never get praised by them again. And Kaiju number 15 is mocking her for it, and she starts screaming inside this mindscape, and that's basically the end of the chapter, because we kind of already knew everything else that happens after this point. Because some reports start coming in over like, okay, Narumi is fighting this thing, but it uses water, and it starts to land some hits on him. And this big pseudo-reptilian thing with like a xenomorph head is mocking Narumi, saying, you read my movements based on the electrical signals in my body, but you can't read the water's movements. And this thing is a waterbender, and oh no, it's Narumi's worst weakness, water. And Hoshina is fighting the, big armored devil thing, and it just sends him flying with a huge attack. And Hoshina's like, shit, how am I losing in a clash of blades? He's getting cut up. And so they realize, like, oh my god, this new kaiju specializes at single target direct confrontation. And then she realizes, and Okunogi realizes, it's almost as if it was specifically created to go up against the vice captain. And oh my god, the bald guy whose only job is to talk about Kikaru's parents says something different.
I wonder if he was struggling, because he's kind of sweating. He's like, we're on the receiving ends. Oh, thank God Kikoru's mom isn't here to see this, because she's dead.
And he just realizes, like, yeah, over time, the Defense Corps has been analyzing all these different kaiju in order to find the ideal way to deal with them. And for the first time in history, we're the ones on the receiving end. And this is like visualized as like a big creepy kaiju head just kind of looking down at people. Very bored looking people, I should say. Just people on the street somewhere. And it's going, oh, I'll discover your weaknesses. The least important members of all the Lieutenant Corps are probably going to die. That's what we end on. So,
I mean, It'd be wild because I guess we haven't really seen too much like violent death of like regular characters in this series. I guess we did to have like a bunch of like nobodies get blown up like a week or two ago. Um, this is like a moment though where I'm like, I still don't know who these people are or why I'm meant to care about their fight. Like, why would you design a kaiju to fight them specifically? Like, I need to face down ponytail guy and highlights girl. They have to go down. A kaiju, we need one.
Yeah, and they are looking utterly defeated. And Ponytail guy is just getting the shit choked out of him by this kaiju that was apparently specialized to beat him, and Minigun Girl.
It seems like he was specialized in just choking a guy. That seems like what they really did, and that was
my one weakness.
He's like, I've never been choked before. Ooh, I thought I'd like this, but I don't. Ooh.
Just like really, really mundane weaknesses. So it's like, there's the fanciful ones like, oh, Narumi is weak to water. Oh, Kikaru is vulnerable to mental things. We haven't really seen what Mina's specialized kaiju is. Maybe it's got, I don't know, like maybe it's got like just a tube, like a pipe.
A personality.
No. Like maybe it's just got like a pipe so that like her blasts go in one end and it just goes back out the other.
That'd be pretty cool. It's just like boom. Gotcha.
But this guy is like, oh, my weakness is being stabbed through the heart.
It's like,
how did you know?
That's why I, Stabby McPunchheart, am here to duel you.
And that is why I, Choppy McBites heads off.
I, Sir Chokes-a-Lot, will be the one to take you down.
And that is why I, Sir Heart Failure. Yeah. So this was I don't know. It didn't do a whole lot for me. Just because I just did definitely get this feeling of like we've been talking about this point for a while. Like, oh, maybe they're specialized kaiju to just beat these guys, and yeah, you can do that kind of thing even if it's been predicted and it still feels kind of satisfying when it happens. But I think that just because of the pacing of the way the reveal goes out, this doesn't do a whole lot for me, unfortunately.
I think if I had a reason to care about these two characters at the end, like I truly don't remember if we've really seen a whole lot out of them. I might just be forgetting because I'm bad at remembering things. But because I don't have any connection to these two characters, this last 2-page spread just doesn't hit. Like when I first saw it, I was like, oh my god, like is that Mina? Like is she in that bad? And I was like, that's not Mina, that's someone else. Oh, it's those two characters I don't know anything about. And I just kind of like had everything a little bit deflated because I do think that moment actually kind of hits. Of just like they're designed to defeat us, and like you close in on one who looks like he's killing one of them. Like wow,
oh yeah,
is, like brutal. But I'm like, I don't know these people. Like I don't remember them. I'm sorry.
Even just a little bit to make sure that you remembered them.
They need
beyond them showing up at that meeting of the captains and stuff.
They need a Sean, aka Unseen chapter for me to be like, oh, highlights girl, no, get out of there.
Yeah, maybe just like one chapter of them kicking ass for a bit to be like, oh, okay, I'm kind of getting used to like who these people are, and then they just like die the next time you see them. It's like, oh shit, all right. So,
oh wow.
But with that being said, let's move on to Spy Family.
Spy Family.
76. That's what I said. Yeah. It's Anya is having dinner with her family, and she's singing her own theme song, which is a thing that Anya does.
That's adorable. If I got a Stella Star, I would also sing a lot of songs about how awesome I am.
I love just the bit at the beginning because they say like, "Oh, make sure you eat your green peppers, Anya," and Anya's like, "Starlight Anya doesn't have to eat anything she doesn't want to." Just making her own rules for herself because she thinks she's so great.
I like the boy who's just like, since when? Just eat them.
Yeah. He just has no patience for this. And they do also make sure to say like, it was really dangerous, like the way that you were behaving, around those violent people. But they also said that they were like, you were like demanding food from your captors. And I was like, oh, I was hungry. Yor starts to get self-conscious because she's like, "Oh, did the breakfast I give you that morning not have enough nutrition?" I was like, "Oh,
no one's eating your food. I'm sorry.
She's so hard on herself." So Lloyd says that he's going to drive Anya to school that day, and he does think to himself, like, look, she's acting fine, but I know that she went through something that was probably terribly traumatic, so I should treat her with patience and with care. So he drives Anya to school, and immediately Anya's like, "Papa's car sucks!" Just singing to herself in the back about it. And Lloyd's like, all right, maybe she's fine. So they get to school, or they don't get to school, but on the way to school, Anya just kind of like looks over and sees a kid walking with their parents. And so she says to Lloyd, "Do the families that came to pick up their kids love them more?" And it's just one of those kind of things that, like, only a really little kid can ask that kind of question. And Lloyd says, "I mean, I suppose you could say that," which is, I mean, I don't know, that's a little bit direct and judgy, but Anya's reflecting on the whole thing with Damien and all the weird stuff that he picked up from Damien's mother. And she just thinks to herself, his family seemed really weird. That about sums it up, yes.
Yeah.
Lloyd starts to wonder, like, oh, is she resenting me because I didn't come to pick her up? Oh, so she spent all that time at the orphanage, and maybe she's got abandonment issues that she's dealing with. If this comes up to, then, and she starts to re-experience that, then it'll be an obstacle to the mission. So I've got to make sure that I help her through it. But how? And Anya reads his mind and is being like, I would really like some cake today. And he's like, oh, okay, I'll get you cake. Gotta get you cake, Anya. So sometimes Anya is very clever. Sometimes. And I want everyone to remember that for when we're talking about what happens in like 5 minutes when Anya is the least clever person in the world. Henderson is having a meeting with, quote unquote, Mr. Tutor in residence. So I don't think we know this guy's name. So he asks, like, oh, how are you, dealing with, what happened during the trip and everything? And he says, oh yeah, sometimes I kind of start to get flashbacks. And Henderson says, oh, I know a great psychiatrist that I could recommend for you. And he's talking about Lloyd, and it's like, oh right, that's Lloyd's cover. So it is good to know that Henderson considers him
a friend.
Positively. Yeah. But the tutor says, I think you need to be focusing on children. But Henderson says something very nice, and he continues to just be like, a good dude in this series, where he says, like, look, we've got to not neglect our own mental health if we are going to support the kids. The tutor says, and I understand that, our meeting with the parents didn't really go well yesterday. And Henderson says, well, the parents and children have every right to be anxious and angry, and it is our duty to support them through this. As there are greater precautions, of course, being taken around the school to make sure that the students can attend safely. So Damien arrives at school. He's dropped off by Jeeves, his butler, and we have a flashback to when he was at his house eating by himself, this poor child. And he asks his butler then, like, hey, what isn't mother going to be coming? And his butler says, well, your mother has returned to her own residence. Very specific wording, which indicates that she lives in a separate fucking building. So, rich people, they can love each other as little as they want, I guess. But he can clearly tell what Damien is thinking in this moment. So Jeeves also says, I'm not supposed to talk to you about this kind of thing, so just consider this me talking to myself. But your mother cooked every dish here herself. So again, that very weird, conflicting emotions that his mother has for him.
Yes.
Of course, it's not too long before all of the important kids at the school run into each other. To put it shortly, Anya runs into Becky, and Damien and his crew are passing by nearby as well. But a bunch of the students also start kind of like flocking around Anya and calling her a hero because of what she did on the bus and helping people out and everything. And everyone's like, "Oh my God, you're so cool, Anya! You stood up to the bad guys." And Anya says, "No, no, 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 no. Refer to me as Double Starlight Anya from now on." Yeah, so that all happens. And she's thinking to herself, like, yes, my era has begun. Whatever shall I do? Soon I'll have 100 friends, enough friends to conquer the world. Because she has a great sense of scale. So Damien, of course, is like, look at her, she's what does she have to celebrate? And Becky starts to chide him because she says, "Oh, you're getting jealous because all those guys flocking around on you. One of them might ask her out instead of you." And Damien's, like, and then he's like, "What? No, I don't care about that. No, girls are gross." Because he's 6, so. Also, he literally like has a shiver and then is like, "I'm not shivering about that," and he like knocks the word bubble out of the air, which is very silly. A bunch of people are like asking Anya about weird stuff about her family, and she she answers in weird ways because her family's weird, of course. And then eventually, because of people's interest in her family, like, "Oh, what if I were to like get trained by your mom and stuff?" Anya's like, "Wait, but this way, maybe I could get Damien to come over to my house, and then he would bring his dad over. So this is the plan B that I can work on." So she keeps on, talking about like, oh, how great like her training regimen is that makes her so strong and brave and stuff. And so they say, "Oh, well, what other weird things are there about your family life?" And Anya says, "Well, my papa's always telling me to study." And I mean, yeah, our parents do that too. "Well, they make me carry stuff at the store." Okay, yeah, that seems reasonable. Yeah, it's good that you have chores to help your family out. "And my toothbrush weighs 100 kilograms. Oh my gosh!"
Oh dear.
So Becky's realizing, like, "No, Anya, no, you're
losing them.
You're losing the thread. You're just catching yourself in a lie." So she said, "No, what you guys really don't understand is like, Anya's strength is actually from like she gets to train with her mother, who's really super strong, and I get to train with her sometimes too, and it's great." And I was like, "Oh wow, so her mom's really strong." And Anya's like, "No, now they're gonna think my mom is great, and it's gonna be her who gets the glory." And she's like, "No, my mom's not great, you guys." Just completely has lost the thread.
She's lost every bit of what she was trying to do. She's a very dumb child, but that's adorable.
So eventually she makes it the lie, like, "Oh, Mama broke her neck the other day, so she can't train you right now. I'll train you guys instead. You guys got to punch like this." And Damien starts to say, like, "You guys look stupid." And he says, "If you try and be friends with her, then you're just going to disgrace your family." And Anya's like, "Now he's trying to stop me from being popular." It's like she's just has lost all sense of any perspective of what's going on. And so she says, "You're a big mean jerk." And Damien says, "Oh yeah? Well, I hate you. You're a big, dumb, stubby-legged uggo runt. A meal-grubbing sheepies. Your mom's a gorilla and your dad's a fraud." Not the most inaccurate insults he could have chosen for her parents, I guess. And Anya like looks at this and like, what? I don't have stubby legs. And it was like, "Oh my God, you made Forger cry, Damien. Wow, I guess Damien really is the strongest. He's way more hardcore." And Anya's like, "No, don't think he's strong. You're supposed to help me conquer the world."
Oh man, it really fell apart for poor Anna. She came into this in a really strong way, and then it all fell apart.
So she starts crying. Becky has like no idea how to comfort her. And Damien's crew are like, "Oh, Lord Damien, you fucking schooled her." And then Damien gets kind of like, he blushes and looks to the side. He's like, "Okay, I'm sorry. I'll bring you some candy. Don't cry, okay?" And his crew are immediately like, "Did you just apologize to her?" He's like, "No, we're leaving. We have to go. And then he says, "And anyway, apologizing properly makes me stronger. So I did win that exchange." And they're like, "Oh yeah, I guess you did." And Nanya's like, "What? No, he didn't. I'm still stronger than you." It's like, "No, you're not. You were crying." It's like, "Yeah, but you're the one who cried when your mom picked you up." "No, I didn't. Shut up. So they're arguing like 6-year-olds. And they go to class, and the chapter ends on the note from the narrator, which is, "They were both late to class like good friends," which is a bizarrely sweet way to end the chapter. I feel like.
Good friends, Nick. It's very cute. I love the adorable moment on you being like, "I didn't lose." Just very
so many nice just little jokes to just kind of cap off a big dramatic moment that happens in their arguments. Yeah, it's very sweet, and I like that, you get that sense that they are getting closer, getting along better, even though they're being stupid little kids.
Yeah, they definitely are. Nick, you want to know who aren't being stupid little kids, though? The characters
who is
of
that,
World
Quinn?
Trigger.
My gosh, they're such smart little kids.
They're all so smart.
It's chapter 231 of World Trigger. The away mission test part. Hang on. The away mission test part 28. So.
Is it only been that long? Wow. Flies. Oh, you've woken the professor.
I'm sorry.
Nope, he's back down. Now you're good.
All right. False alarm. So we get a little bit of a montage of some of the simulation tests. Look at little Katori's go, cutting people up. Slash. Ooh, look at little Osamu. He's holding his shield up. Blink, blink. It's good stuff. Oh my God, they won the match by the 9-unit gap. Woo! And they're like, "Oh man, that went according to plan. Nice, efficient teamwork and stuff." Because they're doing the whole thing where they divide the units up between like captains to manage and stuff. Like, right. Meanwhile, Murakami Squad is reacting to just having lost to Suwa Squad, and they're like, "Yeah, this they kind of just beat the shit out of us. It feels like their teamwork was way better, and they think that there's no way that they are just like a little bit better than yesterday with some training. This is a huge gap from last time. Maybe they've got some sort of killer strategy, and so they try and figure out like, well, maybe we should do something." Maybe we need to come up with a special strategy of our own. And Murakami's just like, no. We're going to do nothing.
Fair enough, bud.
And hope that nothing changes. They go up against Kodera Squad next, and they're able to win it again, using some special tactics and stuff. And Katori's like, "Yeah!" She's getting into this now. And they just kind of like have a little bit of like a post-game analysis session where they're like, "Okay, yeah, we can use these wires against squads of attackers and stuff." So they're like, even as they're doing this, they're kind of like still coming up with more strategies to get better and better. Kodera Squad reacts to it, and they're like, "Yeah, they really did get better. I guess this kind of like shows how much they've grown because of the info that we gave them yesterday." Kitora has a reaction to this that I cannot really read, because she makes this kind of grim grin, I think.
She's like head in her hands. She's like, "Look, Nick, she lost to her fucking crush, who she's soon for, so she's a little pet." Yeah, that she's definitely just like, whatever, who cares?
Oh man, she's just thinking about that threesome she's gonna have with him and Zapdos. So
that must be an insane line for people who haven't listened to the show for very. I mean, it's an insane line in general, but if you listen to the show, at least you'd be like, "Oh yeah, I get the context for this."
Then it's up against Kuruma's squad, and it's 3 wins in a row for Sua's squad. We do see that like Osamu's units are kind of getting taken down kind of quickly, but they managed to overcome it and win. And Katori's like, "Hey, Four Eyes, your guys are better off not smacking the enemy with ray guns." It's like, what kind of weird compliment is that? Then we cut over to Kuruma, that squad, as they react to this, and they're like, "Look, something is going on here. Like, what's with these strategies that they're coming up with? It feels like we're really getting punished because we're going after the Mikomo units too hard because of their double ray gus defense and stuff. Is there some sort of hidden exploit? What is it?" And Korai says, like, "What if maybe we need to figure that out, because maybe we're being judged on whether or not we can catch on to the trick to this match." And it's not Obishima, it's her captain, right? The glasses guy. I can't remember his name. Yuba. So he's like, "Shape up, Korai!" And he says, "Look, if you don't know anything about their tricks and stuff, your job is just to boost your evaluation every other way. Basically, don't go chasing after something that you're not going to catch, because it's going to make you lose sight of all the other aspects of our game, of our strategy and our plan and stuff." So there's kind of there's a rah-rah session of everyone like, "Okay, look, Korai, stop being stupid, and we'll get your ass back in gear." And but he's pretty pumped about this. He's like, "Oh, okay, I hope we can pull off a big win together. I don't know why we're focusing on him of all people, but anyway."
Well, I mean, some of these characters are probably going to be significant to some degree in the OA mission when we get to that sometime in 2025. Sometimes after Avengers Kang Dynasty has come out, and they'll finally be like, "It's time to go to space, everybody." That might be too brazen of an expectation to think that within 2 years.
Only 2 years. There's another part of this test, Quinn.
I'm such a fool. I'm so dumb. There's no way we're getting there in that time.
So we cut to the management HQ desk for the last couple pages of this chapter. We get kind of a breakdown of everyone reacting to, like, we kind of thought that there would be a lot more draws by this point in the test, as people kind of like all kind of bell curved and started to all kind of plateau at the same area. But instead we're getting like more wins and losses as people are kind of like figuring out the exploits and everything. And basically they just realize, yeah, those teams that had a more outlandish strategy are faring well against the people who are just kind of sticking to more standard stuff. And they also point out, like, okay, the 2 squads that are doing really, really well are producing results with strategies that aren't asking much of their members. So they go over that. They then turn to Commander Kido and say, "Hey, isn't this about the time that we give them a special assignment?" And he says, "Nah, I want them just to focus on the battles today, so no special assignment." All right. So, and then they say, "Hey, is there anyone that you've got your eyes on?" And he says, "We are seeing dramatic turnabouts versus yesterday, especially with Mizukami's squad. And one that we know is struggling today is Ninomiya's squad 8. And the person that we focus on within Ninomiya's squad is Chika, who doesn't look like she's having a good time right now."
Well, she's not.
And I don't think we've really focused like at all on what Chika's been going through during this whole thing. So
she has a little apple on her shirt. I'm sorry. I guess
she does.
I guess that takes
it's a legit cute. It's actually a really cute shirt.
Yeah.
So it'll be actually kind of nice if we do check in on her a little bit, because we've only seen very tiny snatches of like her conversations with Ninomiya and User and stuff.
The implication was also just like Ninomiya's squad is like stupid.
They're just not doing well. Yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, I thought they're
good.
They're
They're apparently really underachieving today, I guess is.
Yeah, that's what we're hearing now. But to this point, I thought we've kind of just been like, yeah, Ninomiya squad fucking rules, and they're pretty strong. I thought the only team they were really losing to was I don't remember his name, but the guy who's controlling all the characters, Mizukami or something like that. So
Right.
the idea that they're struggling is like, ooh, I wonder why.
What's going on? Yeah.
Maybe it's just Chica. You know what? We got a chapter of World Trigger. It didn't deal too much with the mechanics of the shooty shoot fake game, so
That's true.
I did appreciate it. 10 out of 10, 100%. Greatest chapter of the year.
It felt like stuff was actually moving forward. Credits to.
Theoretically, and this is wild, but theoretically, we might be done with this part of the selection exam by the end of the year.
I'm not counting on anything. We're going to be done with part 1 of the selection exam in mid-2024 is my prediction at this point.
Like this, the character, the team selection, like the little fighty fights.
Yes.
Damn.
Yes, Quinn.
Oh my god.
So buckle your asses up, everybody. Okay, let's talk about Akane-banashi. Story 52, Embodiment. Master Ken, who was one of the other judges at the junior competition that Akane won, is having a conversation with our journalist friend, and so he says because he starts to do a formal interview. He's like, "Hey, look, we've known each other for a really long time, so don't bother with the formalities and everything." He's much more laid back about this than like Arakawa would be. So he starts to say like, hey, the Arakawa school is ascendant these days, like Kaisei especially. He's even approaching the Wonder Child, Rokuro, and Iken says, well, yeah, he's special, which gets a kind of interesting reaction. So last time Kaisei had run into Akane on his way in for a performance. And it was like, oh man, Kaisei's here. When was the last time that he was here? And a much older Rakugoka in the corner starts going, and they're like, "What? Why are you laughing?" He's like, "Oh, I was just thinking about how much he resembles Isho." Like, wait, what? No, he doesn't. Like, oh, I mean his eyes. The look in his eyes is the same one that Isho used to have.
Master,
the eyes of a wild beast.
Master, are you drinking out of a toilet bowl? He's like, I'll do what I want to do.
It does look like a toilet bowl next to
Sometimes you get a good scoop and you're just like, ooh, little treats for me. Won't need to grab food on the way home. Here's how you save the big bucks. They're like, you live in a cardboard box. Lived in a cardboard box. It rained.
By the way, do you happen to have any houses in your trash cans right now?
Well, time for me to go on stage. Today's the story of an old prospector who's found gold up in their hills. Gold, I say. Yeah! Like, if we put him on last, no one sits through his show.
They're like, sir, it's 2023. And we're not in California.
we didn't really have that same kind of gold rush character you're playing. But I said to them, I smell that gold up in their hills, and I went, woo!
Why is he Hambone?
They're like, his mic's not plugged in, by the way.
And then it's like, yes, the legendary Rakugoka.
Hambone Jackson.
He was master the crazy prospector style of Rakugo.
He's like, Akane, let me teach you a lesson. They're like, sir, you're facing the wall. You're not facing the audience.
I see. By telling the story, this classic tale, that as one who's an insane prospector.
The classic story of them's gold up in their hills.
The audience can't help but be completely enamored. Oh. Anyway, he says the Kaisei has the eyes of wild beast.
So this old man who shows up for 2 panels finishes his thoughts.
there's a huge reaction as Kaisei takes the stage, and people are still flooding in to the audience, and everyone's like, "Oh my god, he's so crazy popular! All of his performances get so insane." Kaisei starts to go into a performance, and he starts to say that okay, there was a female master of the shamisen by the name of Toyoshiga, and she was particularly famed for her loathing of men. But one stormy evening, Toyoshiga allowed her apprentice, Shinkichi, to shelter in her home overnight. And they immediately struck up an affair. And Kaisei strikes this very seductive look when she beckons him to bed. And the crowd's like, oh man, it's totally drawn in. And Akane realized, like, yeah, I mean, this is just what I heard about him when I performed at the Rakugo Cafe, that his talent is in the art of seduction. Or at least it should be. But there's something else. And so Kaisei continues on with the story saying, Toyoshika was 39, Shinkichi was just 21, so they were basically, she was old enough to be his mother, essentially. But their lives grew intertwined. They settled down happily together. However, not all was well in Toyoshika's mind. And Toyoshika witnessed Shinkichi talking to another woman, a younger woman who was another of her apprentices named Ohisa, just 18 years old, so much closer to Shinkichi's age. And Toyoshiga's mind immediately started, she started being paranoid, thinking she's going to steal Shinkichi from me. And just like that, her heart smoldered with jealousy. In the conversation that Iken is having, he says, what makes Kaisei so special? Do you really need me to say it? See, the plan is to develop young talent that will help break the mold of stodgy seniority. But if your lofty ideals don't have any muscle behind them, they'll remain a mere pipe dream. That's why Kaisei was built up specifically to further Mastery Show's goal as an embodiment of his ideals. It only works because he has the talent to back it up. It's why he had such a meteoric rise within the Rakugo world. Losing's not an option for him. And while he won't admit it, certain rival figures to whom he is compared and rising young talents coming up behind him are nothing but eyesores he can't wait to be rid of. And so, the journalist says, I mean, you never really get that impression just from looking at him. And Ken explains, no, Kaisei hides it all behind a very thick mask. And meanwhile, in Kaisei's performance, he starts going over how the horrible Toyoshiga's jealousy is getting to the point that she gets growths bubbling up around her eye, and when she claws at them, the affliction swelled and spread, dark, bloody, and oozing, and it began to fester. She fell ill and bedridden, and Shinkichi stayed at her side to care for her. And as she's better, and Toyoshisa says to Shinkichi, if you leave me to be with Ohisa, I promise you this, I will hunt you until the day you die.
Oh, scary.
And Iken says, behind that smiling, friendly mask that Kaisei always wears lurks a demon. The public doesn't know about it yet, but the extent of his terror goes much further than anyone realizes. And of course, everyone watching the performances really freaked out by the way that Kaisei has conveyed all of this disgust and hatred that lurks within him. So this is a cool chapter. Nice build up for Kaisei, I think. And it's a really nice, just like visual of just his face when he does the really scary bit. We have that, all these visuals of the characters that he's portraying as he's going about it, but then for the big, really scary moment, you just see his face and his face alone to push home how intrinsic that deep-seated hatred is for him, not the characters he plays.
Yes, I agree. Very cool chapter. Good stuff in it. He seems like a scary guy. I do wish Hambone Jackson was back, but maybe we'll get to see him next week.
I've only just caught my breath. You gotta hold back on that one. So
I know my eyes. It hurts. So we're gonna no more Hambone Jackson. He's dead. He died up in the Nevarals.
All right, and next up, everybody, Hambone Jackson. Never mind, he's dead. Okay, goodbye, everyone. Man, why do we make that guy our closer every week? Oh.
You know, we say that. The open mics I used to do, we used to close with Heath the Queef because no one could follow him. Partially because he did not leave after 5 minutes. He just kept going. But
oh, boy.
Sometimes you just close with the worst person.
All right, go home, everyone.
Yeah. The fun's over. Heath the Queef is awesome, by the way. I'm not
blue box.
Blah blue, blah boo dee da boo da, da boo dee da boo da.
I can't believe it took us 91 chapters to get to that point. Minus however many we weren't actually covering it for.
Yeah.
Chapter 91, the most powerful feeling. We started in the flashback.
They get a Megazord this chapter. You're never stronger until you get a Megazord. The strongest feeling, yeah.
Okay.
I thought it was pretty self-explanatory, Nick. Do you not feel more powerful? Have you ever felt more powerful than you have when you get a Megazord?
In a very technical sense, Quinn, no, I have not.
There you go.
It might not be for the reasons you're anticipating, but...
Don't care. I got the answer I'm looking for.
We started a flashback of Yumika playing as a little kid with her parent, who I don't know where you threw that to, but okay. Who asks her, "Hey, do you like basketball?" And she says, "Yeah, I love it." And it is her dad. He says,
little girl, let me tell you a little secret about it. I don't know.
Oh, you see, back in 1906,
they told me there was gold up in their hills, and I knew it. I dug it out with my teeth.
Now, do you love basketball more than your daddy? Oh, absolutely, I do.
Do you like basketball, or would you like to blow in this jug?
Do you like basketball so much that you go all across the continental United States in an ox-driven cart?
Play over in San Francisco? Because that's where them golds is.
Do you love basketball so much that you'd spend all your money on bullets, stop at the first forest outside of town, and do nothing but shoot bears?
You're eating like a king. So you used 400 bullets.
And you only carry back 100 pounds.
Or you just eat it there in the woods. You don't even eat it. That's how you trick the system. Dysentery, not again.
All right.
I'm so sorry.
The important thing that is said to Yumika in this conversation with her dad is the feeling of loving something is the most powerful feeling of all. Then you're also the most powerful because you love mommy so much. And dad's like, haha, that's right. So it's a good parent. It's a good parent. Good answer. Good answer, Dad. But of course we know at the present that they broke up, so that's great.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's a great line in retrospect.
Yeah. So in the present, Chinatsu has just gotten done, freaking pouring her heart out to Yumika about how important Taiki is to her. But then, she's done. She said her piece. She turns and starts to walk away. And Yumika admits to herself in her thoughts, I know that I've just been projecting. I didn't keep playing basketball, and I just took it out on you. And we see that, when Yumika was, in her last year playing basketball with the team, that she was not doing so well. Some people in the crowd were observing like, oh yeah, they said that she got into the junior high on a recommendation, that she was this famous athlete in elementary school, but man, you wouldn't be able to tell by looking at her. And Yumika just kind of has this realization of like, shit, maybe, I'm just not going to be able to cut it anymore. Because, they said I had all this natural talent, but, older players have more time to practice and get better. And so she's feeling, sorry for herself after the game, but the coach just says like, I'm sure you'll do better next time. That's just kind of it. And so, but so she started to go like, yeah, I just got to, practice tons like Natsu does. Everyone in here expects me to play really well, so I got to work harder and measure up to that. Until I taste blood in my mouth, until my hands dry out, until my heart beats so hard that it ruptures. Okay, maybe not that hard. Calm down.
I definitely would stop before the heart rupturing part. Yeah. That's definitely not good.
So, she practiced and she tried, and she still got surpassed by people around her. She still was falling behind everyone. And then she would get home after practicing so hard, and she would come down to her parents arguing behind closed doors. So then, she like kind of went out running and decided, man, what can you do? Feelings are fickle. And just like you, Dad, I feel like my powers run out. So her love for basketball is running out the same way her parents' love for each other is running out. So she's like, yeah, I'll be fine. I'm just being pulled in by the pains of practice right now. So, I'm going to come back. I'll get my power back. And she went to, practice. Chinatsu got there earlier than her again. And Chinatsu's like, hey, come practice with me. And Yumeka just thought, I can't let her find out. I don't want to drag her down. And I don't want her to feel these negative emotions too, because Natsu loves basketball. That's rough. But then we get to see more of the moment that Chinatsu missed her shot in that last game when they played together. She hit the rim on her shot, and then the ball got rebounded to Yumeka, and she thought to herself, like, the confidence you get from all those hours of practice, it becomes your strength. But I still don't have as much as she does. And she basically froze up. She took a bad shot, and it didn't go well, and they lost the game. And she was left with her own regrets, which were like, why didn't I practice more? Why didn't I spend more time on basketball? And she was just overwhelmed by all these negative thoughts. Like, this is it. This is the way that it ends. What was the point of all that hard work? Why? I suck. I'm pathetic. There's always someone better than you. What am I even working towards? And also just, I'm tired.
Yeah.
And so, she slept in one day, just kind of like under the covers. Her mom came in to tell her that her parents are getting a divorce. And she said out loud, yeah, so
the idea that like you would wake your child up to do that.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
Maybe she was just, having a time in bed. I don't know. But, so she was told that. And so Yumeka just says, yeah, so much for love being the most powerful feeling. And then ran off. And also was just like, look, I just wanted to play basketball like I used to back then. Getting excited over scoring a basket, like how things used to be. I don't want to face the reality that maybe I just don't love it anymore. And when she got to the gym, of course, she saw Chinatsu practicing. And it's that moment where Chinatsu was burying herself in shooting shot after shot after shot because she was so hard on herself for missing it. But that's where the flashback ends. We catch up with Yumeka as she is, struggling with all those feelings that she's been dealing with this entire time. And she realizes it hurts that while I was stumbling back, Natsu just kept moving forward. And back then, if I had stayed by her side, I wonder if I could have learned to love basketball again.
Aww.
And there's a basketball ticket in front of her face. Because Taiki's got the ticket to Chinatsu's match and wants her to have it. He won the show match, and all of a sudden, I actually do care that he won.
It's astonishing. Like, this is a phenomenal chapter, by the way. Like, this is exquisite. Like, really, really great writing for Yumeka. Really, really, like, great characterization here, building up to her anguish and, like, just the turmoil that she's been going through. And, like, I was pretty hard on Taiki, like, a few chapters ago, like, butting his face into a situation he didn't need to. But, like, this was, like, a legitimately very charming thing, I feel like, for him to do. And yeah, like now I'm like, I'm glad you got into a pissing contest with that other basketball dude, because you actually legit were not trying to get the ticket for yourself. You were trying to help out a friend. I'm like, all right, this is a sweet thing. Good on you, Taiki.
Yeah. I feel like we actually spent the exact right amount on that shuttle run contest while doing this stuff, because like it's just enough so that the last couple chapters you remember that it's going on, and then more and more it goes to focus on Yuika and Chinatsu's drama and everything, all the big interesting dramatic stuff, and then it lingers long enough on that in a row for you to kind of like let the Taiki stuff fade from your mind, and then he shows back up again. It's like, oh, what a good boy our hero is. And we knew that he was doing that, but it came at the right time, and it was just perfect pacing. It's a very, very good chapter.
Excellent chapter.
Very good series of chapters that we've had from Blue Box recently.
Nick, let's get Morgan No. Morgan time.
I don't know. Oh, okay. It's just, it's like you have the morphing sequence, but it's just everyone going, Morg! Morg! Morg!
Oh, that's what my cabal does. We gather around and just chant, Morg, 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 Morg. And then Morg's the bulb. It ascends from his dark plane. And you know what Morg's the bulb said to us, Nick?
No,
There's gold up in that hills! You got to get it! It's waiting for you!
I mean, I guess it is a crypto thing. So. I don't know why the jug band part gets me.
There's so many old prospector stereotypes I have.
Oh, God. All right. Oh, Cipher Academy, Chapter 14. Oh, God. Encrypt the rook instead of the useless king. All right, it's time for more of the class-leading private selection thing. So our students have been given a test, which is Fool's Mate Minefield, where they have shogi pieces and a configuration for a puzzle solving thing. I've always been terrible at these kinds of things when it comes to like chess puzzles like this. So
I'm a genius when it comes to it, but I don't want to make you feel bad, so I won't solve it.
All right. This part of the test, however, is specifically to just split people into groups. So you get to just kind of like choose what team you're on based on the order that you solve it in. And then the victors of groups A to D will then be able to move their pieces on to the third part.
Interesting.
So basically, if Yoroha loses at this point, then he's out. So he's like, okay, but I'm not going to lose. Toshusai, of course, solves the puzzle right away, but so does Ensa. They solve it at like the exact same time, basically. So they both get to pick their pieces, their teams. Toshusai goes for Team C, and it's like, okay, I could also join Group C and also compete with Toshusai, but I think instead I'll join a different group so that it's empty and I boost my chances of being matched up with Iro, because I want to just take on a support role for him when it comes time for that. And it's like, what a good nice gesture she's trying to make.
Yeah.
But her group ended up filling up first, so she's like, shit, it backfired. Iro, it's getting down to like just the last few students, and Iro still hasn't finished. And so he's like, all right, I've got to do this. And so he's like, ice cold reading, but without glasses. So I just kind of put my fingers over my eyes. So I guess this means the goggles do nothing, because he does, in fact, ice cold read the puzzle. And he realizes, oh, okay, this is not a shogi board. It's actually a chess board. So these are chess pieces. They don't move like shogi pieces. So I have to treat this like a game of chess, not like a game of shogi. So you have to lead your opponent into a checkmate with their own pieces in order to cause this. And he realizes, okay, so the mine must be at square E6. And so he finishes and is literally the second to last person in the class. The only other one being name redacted. That is their name. And also, we don't see their eyes. This has been a consistent thing whenever this character has shown up in like group shots and stuff. They have, like the anonymity bar over their eyes. So Iroha's like, okay, I can't join up with Inchan, but if I look at it from a different perspective, there are those 3 remaining spots that would allow me to choose my opponents. And we get these really cool group shots.
It's very dynamic. A lot of JoJo posing.
And also, like, to a degree, their bodies match the shape of the letter of the team that they're on. So it's, like, neat. And so, groups A and C both have a lot of characters that we have met before. Toshusai and Oboro and Nohime and Taiyu are all on Group C. So from what we know about the group so far, that's a pretty stacked lineup. But Iroha is like, I'm gonna join Group D instead of the teams that actually have people that like are familiar to the Ainz instead. So he goes over to join his group, and they say, oh, they're kind of scary, aren't they? And so they're like, but he says, rumor has that the third part of the class leading private selection is going to be a vote. So I figured it would be best if I had the 4 of you just kind of get to know me, since we're basically strangers. And then that might give you the best chance that you'll vote for me. It's like, that's actually really clever shit.
Look at that. Look at that, using the brain.
But Nohime quietly, thinks to herself, like, I mean, he's also basically saying that he knows that he's going to beat the 4 of you, because this is, a group battle between the 5 of them. So they're also like, yeah, you got a talent for making enemies, don't you, Iroha? Iroha's gotten into group, and it's like, all right, time for the real battle, a murder mystery, murder at Cipher Academy, super ultra mega definite difficulty level. And so they're divided up, and they're given character cards that have been passed out, except they can't take their own. Even if you see your own card at the tables, you can't pick it up. So instead, they have to. Iroha is like, okay, so I've got to act like one of my classmates, and everyone in Group D needs to choose one of the 5 cards and act like someone that I know. So if this is a murder mystery, it means that one of us is going to be the spy who killed our fictional classmate. I wonder if it's going to turn out that this isn't actually a fictional event and there's actually someone who got killed. Oh. So he's like, all right. So he picks up Oboro's character card and is going to act as her. And he turns it over, and there's a ton of information on it. Like, there's public information, private information, not yet public information, and crafty information. And a lot of it seems to just deal with game mechanics. But given the way that this series works, I would not be surprised if it turns out later that this is like actual knowledge, information about Oboro that maybe even she doesn't realize that the school / Kagome is aware of. Because there's a lot of stuff in there about really shady stuff.
Yeah.
We are told in narration that the murder mystery is, of course, nothing more than a game, because no real murder was committed at Cipher Academy. I don't buy it yet. Toshusai has ended up with Iroha's card, or rather, she picked it out of the cards that were available to her, and that was one of them. And she says, I can't say this too loudly, but since this game was designed, or rather, the narrator says this, so maybe she just didn't say it. Can't say this too loudly, but since this game was designed by Class 1M's Kogoe Horagatoge, it naturally contains false information mixed in with truths. And Iroha, in this game, is the killer. Ooh.
Very interesting. Lots of interesting stuff going on. It's got me excited, Nick. I'm pretty jazzed. Good stuff. Fun stuff.
I'm going to be curious to see how this Clue-esque game works, and because hey, if you do a good murder mystery situation, then I'm all for it. So
absolutely. Now we do have to.
Guys, it's not a code; it's a murder mystery. It's different.
Yeah, it's very different. Nick, we gotta talk about Ginka Glüna, everyone's favorite series.
I'm sure it's a few people's favorites here. Yeah. Chapter 24, Resurrection. In case you all forgot, the powerful magician Magaraka swallowed up the kingdom of Hirokia. His flesh was sealed away by the magicians of the time, but his spirit lived on in thought. In every era since, some have chosen to devote themselves to this magician of legend. Okay? Everyone caught up? Okay? Good. All right. So, it turns out that all that thing that not Nosferatu, that's his name. That Nosferatu was saying about, like needing pleasure and happiness by experiencing despair. Well, really, he was just a fanatic of Magaraka. That's all. That's what he was actually trying to do. That was the plan from the start, everyone. He was always going to be the guy that was trying to bring forth Magaraka. So he's got a talisman he's got to unleash, and Ginka throws a spear at it and just shatters it. And he's like, "What the fuck? Why'd you do that? Come here, Magaraka. Come on, Magaraka, please."
Oh.
His power starts to fade from people, like musical notes constricting their bodies and draining them start to fade. But Ginka turns to Luna and says, "You need to get these survivors as far away from here as possible." Nosferatu continues to call for Magaraka, and Magaraka's hands come up from inside of his mouth, and he pulls himself out of Nosferatu's body. Through the mouth entirely. Yay!
Yeah, I feel like I've seen Shigaraki do this too. It's old hat, I guess I'm saying, crawling out of somebody's mouth. Come on, get a new bit.
It's I do feel like I've seen this somewhat recently, and I mean, like, we saw more terrifying body horror while we were covering, Full Metal Alchemist recently, so maybe bad timing to read this particular chapter. So we cut away from there as Ginka immediately tries to attack the emerged Magaraka, where the Guildmaster is talking with Anemone, and I can remember her name. Hang on. Retta.
There you go. Teamwork.
So she's talking to the girlfriends, and she says, like, "Well, so you want to know why Magaraka swallowed the Rokian Empire? Well, I'm glad that you asked me that at this particular time. What Magaraka was trying to do was absorb Varokia's moon of magical energy. The moon was a massive power source that supplied magic energy to all of Varokia, and he wanted it. And he rebelled against Varokia. And in the battle against him, a lone magician lasted 10 entire days and cost 90% of Varokian lives. And to protect the moon, the Varokian royal family released it from its orbit. So, okay, the moon's gone as a result of that. And so Anemone and Beretta say, well, why was he doing that?
4 others, if I recall.
There's a lot of them. And so Anemone and Beretta are like, okay, but why did he want all that power for? And the Guildmaster says Magaraka's goal was a simple one: to continue existing within this world. And meanwhile, in the fight, Ginka has bashed off Magaraka's head. It goes flying, and it goes and hits the ground. And then Magaraka, still of course alive, says, dirt! It smells delicious! And then his body comes over and picks up his head, and he throws it into the air, and he says, "Oh, the stars are so beautiful!" And it was like, what the fuck? What is happening? What is going on right now? Magaraka's head lands, he puts it back on his body, and he says, "It's so good to be alive!" And Luna's like, all right, I'm going to keep my distance from this guy. He seems dangerous. And Magaraka turns and is immediately behind her to talk to Ginka, who was standing behind her. And Luna's like, holy shit, even I couldn't see him. He moved so fast. And Ginka says, the world's not your playground, Magaraka. So can you just die? And Magaraka says, are you still trying to defeat me? It seems that way. I intend to see the deaths of the stars and the end of the universe with my own eyes. And before that, there are so many other things I want to do. I don't even know what the moon tastes like yet!
What? Say that again, my guy.
What? Also, he collapsed the building around them. Yep. I guess it's kind of hard to. Nothing really happened. It just happened.
Yeah.
Like the building collapsed off screen. And he also says, like, also I got your body, Ginka. This is your body. This is. The series is going to last another 5 months, right? Right?
Don't worry, Nick. Nothing ends next week, so
Yeah.
I'm sure it's fine for the long foreseeable future.
Yep. He also says that he needs to have a new body, I guess. And so he looks at Luna and is like, this one seems okay. It's got potential. And Ginka gets up, and lots of toothy mouths emerge all over his snowman body.
A little too many. Feels like he's compensating. Yeah.
There's one in his knee. And they all use dark magic to issue, one-word commands like die, turn inside out, and stuff. And Magaraka's body, or Ginka's body, really, just starts to have like blood spurt out of it and flesh peel away and everything. And he gets knocked backward, and Ginka says, "Don't lay a finger on my apprentice." And that's where we end the chapter.
Yeah, don't you lay a finger on my Butterfinger, bitch.
That's right.
But
I want to taste a Butterfinger. I have never even tasted Butterfingers before.
You don't want to. They just get stuck in your teeth. An awful
what a great feeling that would be.
Awful.
Then I would have to floss, which I have also never done.
What an awful candy the Butterfinger is. Truly abhorrent all the way through. Nick, let's talk about...
Those are Quinn's thoughts on Ginka and Luna. Butterfinger, awful. Okay.
Butterfinger's an awful candy. So let's move on to Mashle, Magic, and Muscles. Chapter 146, Domina Blow Alive? I didn't even remember that's his full name. And the Ideal Redemption. So as we mentioned, it's a very serious chapter of Mashle. As last time, Domina showed up, and the rest of the team basically gathered up Mashle's still alive, but not doing so hot body on the account of missing a heart, and are trying to escape while Domina holds off Innocent Zero. Innocent Zero is just like, I thought you died in the dark magma.
In the dark magma.
And Domina is like, I thought, but one of the Divine Visionaries rescued me. We could see it was called Okahena. And my current heart, like the one you gave my brothers, was created by Meliadul's magic, so it is only good for a year. And he's like, all right, you're going to side with Mash Burn Dead? Looks like you still lack a will of your own. Also, as I'm sure you're aware, you cannot defeat me. It's this big, dramatic panel, basically. And he's like, I guess as a parent, I must discipline you. I shall teach you and Mash to never defy me again. He casts a spell, calls it Darkness Basket. It is terrifying. It's basically like a series of like long tendril fingers with a lot of rings hovering over like a little basket. And it just unleashes this cloud of darkness. Nick's doing a very fancy full finger thing, in case you are not watching the podcast. So just know that. The darkness does not envelop Domina, though. Instead, it goes straight past him and instead surrounds the escaping characters. And
they gasp.
Dot tries to just be like, all right, let's just go through it, and it burns him very severely. Sort of like shit, and it's coming towards us. Like we're gonna have to turn back, basically. And Innocent Zero's like, yes, they shall progress no further. You will fail. Domina starts attacking. He does Water's Narwhal. Yeah, Nick's favorite animal, I think.
Narwhals living in the ocean. So.
Oh, that's a good song. It doesn't seem to do much though. It just kind of splashes harmlessly, like a snake comes out of the little pot and just crushes it, and then smashes Domina for a little extra benefit. And they're like, yeah, he cannot attack the basket while I stand directly here. You gave them time, and for what? You were born a tool, and not a very useful one at that. This pitiful end suits you. And Domina just continues to attack with this Narwhal's attack that just does not get anywhere. He gets impaled by a whole bunch of clock hands. Just does another one of his attacks. But this time, it comes from behind Innocent Zero. And he's like, oh, he's used those previous attacks to splash water behind me so he could destroy the basket without drawing my attention. But I just need to kill Domina, and then it won't work. So he makes a big clock hand, and just slashes, just crashes straight into Domina, sends him fucking flying, drops his wand, everything like that. And he's just like, you never stood a chance. You should have foreseen this, but now you're going to die like a fool. And there's a pretty huge gaping cut in magma that is just bleeding profusely. And he thinks back to what Mash told him about how blood relations and unquestioned obedience aren't what make a family. And he's apologizing to Mash in this moment. He's like, I was awful to you, and you were so nice to me. And I don't want to be forgiven while still wearing the same face of the person that I was. And he is crawling forward until he can finally grab the wand. And he says, I want to be able to look you in the eye. And he casts his spell. Narwhals shoot out from behind, impale the basket, shatter it. Innocent Zero is like, he's lost a chunk of himself and still has magic of this caliber. And the attack was successful. The dark magic fades away. The group carrying Mash are like, it's gone. We can keep going. Let's go. And the chapter ends with Domina saying, maybe now I can call myself your friend with pride. Can I? Mash burned in. We end the chapter with a shot of, we can see just how far Domina had to crawl, just draining blood at that point to reach his wand. And it's a sweet little moment. Austin, I'm sorry. Last 2 chapters ago, Mash was smashing Innocent Zero with a pillar and some shit. It's funny sometimes, I swear.
I just have to say, water narwhals brings me some very nice nostalgic memories of when my friend group, who weren't really big into Naruto, but had I guess watched the first Naruto movie together. And there's a bit in it where Kakashi gets into a fight with a guy who summons an ice narwhal and then uses his Kabi Jutsu to summon his own ice narwhal, and the ice narwhals wrestle each other. And they just thought it was the funniest thing. And they would talk about it all the time. It's just oh, ice narwhals wrestling each other. So seeing a water narwhal brought back some very, very nice memories of that.
That's awesome.
Good chapter. Also, I guess Domina did a cool thing.
Yeah.
So, all right. So,
you're 10 out of 10. More narwhals.
The Elusive Samurai, chapter 100, Differing Needs, 1335. So, the great swordsmith Muramasa has just sold Ayako and Kojiro to try and kill each other. And they're like, why? And he says, well, friends often betray each other, so just pretend that happens. Yeah. And Ayako says, we would never betray each other. And he says, all right, just imagine it. I'm not going to make either of you a weapon. Imagine you stand between your lord and a traitor who threatens his life. And Tokiyuki, tries to intervene in this, but Muramasa just kind of pushes them forward into it. And it's like, look, I'll stop you when I'm satisfied. So Kojiro squares off with his katana against Ayako and her naginata, and each of them are kind of just trying to imagine the other as this, horrible menace. They charge towards each other, and before their blades can even clash, he stops them. He's like, all right, I got it. The girl needs one of my weapons. And she starts to say, I mean, we haven't fought yet, though. And Muramasa says, well, I can tell from your stance and look on your face that you're ready to die. You care only about protecting your lord. A warrior who places herself and her equipment second, fights rough and damages her weapon. And that naginata is going to break soon. An elegant and slender blade does not become you. I'll make you a weapon. Come to my workshop. Pretty good. I just like that moment. It was like, look, I can tell what you're about. You need a different weapon because that's not going to cut it for you. Good stuff.
Yeah.
So, and he tells this neat story as well of hey, I once created this amazing katana. It was a sword that was 1.5 meters long. I thought its bearer would be invincible, and I gave it to a friend. But he was an ugly drunk. He got into a fight at a banquet, and he couldn't draw the long blade in its confines. He didn't need a long sword. He needed a short blade for indoor fighting. And so he says all this while he's crafting the weapon, hammering it out. In 3 minutes, presumably. Just for shonen logic. But he says, look, there's no single blade that can make every person invincible. based on physique, personality, lifestyle. People come in all shapes and sizes. And for a long time, I've studied people more than blades. And she has fashioned a war club of some kind. He refers to it as Yomono Kedamono, the four-cornered beast. So it's like a rectangular club, but each of the edges is a sharp edge. And so it's got four cutting edges on a massive base.
If I was Kojiro, I'd be so pissed. I'd be like, yeah, you motherfucker, you definitely could have made more than one weapon if you didn't fucking use all your
weapon!
You didn't use all your goddamn metal making that one.
That's why they call me One Weapon Muramasa. You just made the leg blade for that girl. One weapon.
Also, that's a prototype. It doesn't work.
It doesn't work.
You're like, then why did you make it?
She can't join your group right now.
She has to stay here. I know you're torn. I don't even know her name.
She's your love interest now. What?
This is a lot to take in. I both don't have a weapon and also have a girlfriend, but she's not joining us?
Yes. Now you've got it, kid. Good on you. So,
I'm also a child. She's an adult.
Tomato. Look, I've studied people for a long time, and you guys are within 20 years of each other. It'll be fine. So
he's like, I just stared at you and used my super sense to be like, chemistry's off the charts. Be like, we haven't talked to each other.
Like what? You're like what? 50? She's like 70,000. It'll be fine.
Yeah, it all works out.
Look, I only know people based off of what blades would be good for them. Okay, so Kojiro
leg
does
blade and nothing. You two are designed to be together.
Calls him nothing. Kojiro does actually in the chapter object to like, hey, why don't I get anything? But after Ayako gets to like play around a bit with her new weapon, and he says, no blade can change your fate. Your stance suggests unwavering loyalty, such that you would even kill a friend. So you die when your lord dies. And he actually whispers this in Kojiro's ear, like a creep. But he also says, like, look, I don't have enough steel to make any more weapons, so make do with these swords that were made by my apprentices, because they're better than your blades that have been through a lot of battle and are dull. He gives to Fubuki swords with fatter hilts for a better grip, since he, fights two-handed. And Fubuki's like, how'd you know I fight two-handed? He's just good like that. And so Kojiro's, blown away by like how fucking good this guy is at making weapons and stuff. And then Tokiyuki kind of steps forward to Muramasa like, hey, what about it? No sword for you. Like literal like, soup Nazi style. No sword for you. And Tokiyuki's like, but I helped you. And Muramasa, just to be extra, whips around and looks like he cuts off Tokiyuki's head with one of the swords, but it's a hook-shaped sword, so his neck is totally unharmed. It's fine.
I hate this character so much.
Just to be extra. And so Muramasa says, the moment I saw you survived, I understood your essence. Your nature compels you to seek what makes you and others feel alive. You are a monster of life who has yet to free his full strength. And Shizuku remembers Yorishige saying something similar. And yeah, Muramasa's like, someday the monster inside of Tokiyuki is going to be truly free. Your destiny is too great. Even one of my blades cannot bear it. I haven't thought of a special sword for Tokiyuki's Shonen power-up yet, so he doesn't get one yet.
Just run a lot or something.
Yeah.
I saw it in the stars. Just go with it.
However, he also says, Yorishige has a blade that can bear the fate of the Hojo. Does he mean a literal blade? Yeah, so they get outside and they're gonna go, and the girl with no fingers can't fight with it right away because it's like, this is just a prototype. and you probably get yourself killed, so you can't join the battle. Toki's like, hey, look, it's important that you survive, so just join me when it's ready and when you're ready to join us. And Kojiro says, hey, there'll be fighting even after we've defeated the Takauji. And there is a neat moment where we actually get to see how Shina's new prosthetic fingers work, because obviously she can't move them herself, so she kind of has to like clamp them with her palms down into the gesture she wants to make. So she does that so that she's holding one finger up. She holds a finger up close to Kojiro and says, I may be older, but I'm a newcomer, so don't call me Miss. Call me Shina. And Kojiro's like, okay. I don't know what's going on here. What has been happening this entire time we've been here?
It's such a weird scene.
They're love interest now, I guess.
It's so weird. They're really like shipping these characters together. I'm like, how old is she supposed to be?
She's an experienced warrior, so she's got to be at least a bit older than them kids. She's got to be at least 20, I would guess, because they're like 13 to 15.
Yeah, I mean, it's not good in general, but this is a bizarre moment in this series in general. But it's you know, what are we gonna do?
The topic of romance in this series has in general been not great when considering all the implications of that have been brought up. So,
you know what I was excited about, and what is truly special and about romance in this chapter is the way I forget her name, but she's looking at her big new club thing. She really Ayako. She really is enamored with it in that last panel. So that's
I do like the way she looks at it. Her weapon is pretty cool. I'm glad that she got it. That's nice. Muramasa makes some observations to himself that are, you know, ominous and everything while he watches Tokyo eat his friend's leave. That's our chapter. No cool leg blade girl. No, you don't get it. You don't get it now.
That was like, I guess it's because she's supposed to show up later, but it is such a weird thing to be like, this is going to be an important character. She's joining the team. Actually, she's not, but don't worry, down the line she will. And I'm like, let me tell you exactly how this is going to go. She is going to show up, and I'm going to say, Nick, who is this girl? And you're going to explain. You're like, remember she had a leg blade that they got taken away? And I'm going to be no, I don't.
That won't even be what I say. I'll say, remember she, for some reason, started hitting on Kojiro?
I'll remember that even less. I've already started pushing it out of my mind entirely.
What a weird chapter.
What an extremely weird chapter. Nick, let's wrap this up with Black Clover, page 353, Banquet in full swing.
I have mixed feelings about this chapter.
Well, Nick, your feelings at the start have to be all good because Lord Hadouken has saved everyone. The sky is clear. Everybody is doing good. Asta notes, he's like, hey, this is that dude I fought from the village of Saucy.
I guess.
Saucy, Nick. It's there. That's the town's name. Probably Saucy.
But he died then. Remember? He died?
Yeah.
You guys remember, right? You remember this character who died, right?
He's real dead. Lord Hadouken's basically just like, yeah, dude, like, he can revive people, so, like, it's a rough time. Like, you're gonna have to get onto a level of Grand Magic Knights. But your friends are coming to save you. They're coming in 3 days. So you just gotta wait until then, basically. And Asta's like, all right then, I'll do it. And he's like, cool. But now we're gonna have a party. Whoa! And everyone starts to have a party. I don't remember this character's name, but he's cutting up the dragon to make food out of it. They know Sister Lily is alive. She is asleep. She is as fine as she can be. Asta, just enjoy yourself, basically. We get a montage of a bunch of characters doing things. We particularly get a moment where Chika goes up to Asta, is like, I apologize for speaking badly about your benefactor. But Asta's drunk at this point. And he's just like, It's all good. Real big of you to admit. and she punches him, or still she does something. She physically assaults him because he's down on the ground at that point. She's like, "Don't you talk down to me, kid." All the characters get like
I think he might just wave at her after.
Oh, okay.
Well,
maybe not. Maybe I just assumed because his hand is the only thing in frame that he would just get knocked to grab. But he's also drunk, so maybe he fell over. I don't know.
Yeah.
We get a montage of like every character kind of doing something. Fashion Girl and Pervert Monk are just like, we're eating Charmy's food. Apparently it was like a thing. Charmy went here in the past and brought a bunch of food, so she's like a god there.
Apparently a really long time ago too. So it's
she's a werewolf, so yeah, it makes sense.
It's that dwarf thing going for her, I guess.
Oh yeah, dwarf, whatever it was. Jinzo dude is just like, I suck. I don't remember his name. Yo, sugar, do. You are my gal. He's like, hey, do you have like a hot chick over there that I could fuck? And Asta's like, Marilia Leona. So I guess those two characters are shipped now. That's all we need to do.
He specifically asks, are there any hot girls who are really tough over there? And that's like, I guess Marilia Leona's strong. So.
And specifically one with flame
yojutsu.
Yeah, so.
Which I don't know why that's a thing.
I don't know why
he's metal.
I don't know. I don't know why he specifically wants someone with flame yojutsu. Perhaps that will be explained. Anyway, Asta is encouraged by the monk guy to be like, hey, go to the hot spring. That'll be a good time. And he's like,
it'll be manly bonding time. Ha!
And he's like, oops, I forgot my towel going without me. So Asta's like, cool beans, jumps into the water. He's like, this is great. But then who should you see, Nick? But a chica, naked. Whoa! This is wild. He's immediately terrified because he's like, oh God, she's going to destroy me. But instead, she's very nervous and like runs away. And Asta also runs away. So, well, she doesn't run away. She just is very nervous and blushing. And then Asta runs away screaming, eek, I'm so sorry. And the joke at the end's like, oh, I'm silly. It was reserved for the women now. He's a pervert. He probably knew it, and he's just a weirdo. The next day, Asta is walking dramatically along a bridge, and he sees a chica, and he's like, oh, hey, good morning. I'm really sorry about last night. She's like, you are going to take responsibility for that, you fool. And then, hey, Nick, who should show up but the rest of the Ryuzen 7? They're like, you're going to train with us, right? Dun, dun, dun. 3 days until Judgment Day, Nick. 3 days of training left.
I have mixed feelings about this chapter.
Because you loved it so much.
Well, I do like certain parts of it, especially towards the beginning. I do like that it's as simple as Ichika recognizing, like, I was wrong about what happened. She goes to Asta and is like, look, I'm sorry that, I spoke badly about someone who means something to you. And does it in a way that, like, is, look, I know this is what Yami is to you. She doesn't mention the fact that, like, oh, he's my brother that I thought, betrayed me and everything like that. She apologizes in the very, like, proper way. So she's still very reserved and, like, clearly not connecting with him super personally yet. But it's still, like, a nice step forward. And it's like, yeah, their dynamic could not be the exact same as it was prior to this point, because a lot of it was built over her misunderstanding what happened in the past and butting heads with Asta over their differing views of Yami. So that had to change.
Uh-huh.
I think it takes taken a step too far to seemingly hint that she is going to be another Asta love interest with this whole, oh, he sees her naked and she gets embarrassed and then tells Asta he's going to take responsibility for it later, which has, certain implications. So, I don't know. Look, I don't have a problem with the idea specifically of Ichika being a potential Asta love interest, although it's weird to introduce that at this point in the story, but whatever. Provided that that's not just all that she becomes from this point. Because, there's a lot that I think that, could be done with Ichika as a character that was really kind of hinted towards already in the short time that we've known her.
Uh-huh.
So to kind of just like jam her into that role and just have, it feels like I'm worried that that's clearly all that's going to happen with her.
And that's, I think, a fair concern. that she is one of the more interesting characters. She's the most interesting character in this group of new characters. So you don't want her to be relegated.
You've bothered to learn her name.
I haven't given her a goofy one yet. She's just a Chica. I gave Ryu a longer name. It takes longer to say Hadouken than it does, and I pronounce it wrong constantly. So, but you know, it's all about that. I forgot the much funnier name I gave him the week before that. Someone had to remind me, and it'll probably just be Ninja being like, Hadouken was, and I was like, no, I called him like Lord Usi or something like that. Anyways, yeah, I agree. I hope they don't tear her character down too much and reduce her to anything, because if we're going to include these characters in this big fight, she's the only person I'm interested in seeing what she does.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, Suga is had at least a little bit of something going for him. You got to do the
whole thing.
But I don't know the song.
Lord, Suga, do.
Okay, all right. So yeah, Lord Suga, do is the only one that I feel like we have like anything beyond like a character archetype to go off of, as in, you know, fashionable girl, bloodthirsty girl who turns tepid when it's not in, you know, sword fighty time, pervy monk, guy with mask, guy with hat. So
yeah, you can't forget bard guy who just casts spells to power up everyone's attacks in a all-around generic fashion.
But out of all of them, Ichigo's the only one that feels like a full actual character, and so it would suck if we lost that in favor of like, well, there's another girl that, you know, she's gonna be also the tsundere character, because I thought that was Noelle's dynamic with Asta, but never mind. So, but yeah, I maybe just be jumping ahead of myself and being like, oh, this is gonna suck. So I will try and, you know, retain judgment, especially because things in Black Clover in this arc so far have definitely exceeded my expectations for this arc as a whole. So,
yeah. All right. Good stuff. Let's wrap this up.
No One Piece this week, so Black Clover is what we're ending on. Quinn, tell me, what was your favorite chapter this week?
My favorite chapter was definitely Blue Box. I think that was the chapter that really stood out as like a complete and whole, like really fascinating story.
100%. It was just a really good chapter, very dramatic, very gripping, and I really do want to see if Yumeko and Natsu can be friends again.
I do. Now I'm like,
really invested in it now. Yeah. Not even necessarily like, oh, she enjoys the basketball team, because I just want them to.
I want her to join the basketball team as well. Like I want.
It'll be great.
Yeah, I want them to start gathering fucking players like they're fucking Infinity Stones. Character of the week, I think I'm going to just also give it to Yumeko. I think it was like a really good exploration of her character, and I think that's what I'm going to really kind of carry with me going forward.
I'm going to put mine on Kaisei. Okay. I just really like that moment of like, no, you don't understand. This guy's got some stuff that he needs to work through, but instead he's utilizing it for the sake of being a really good Rakugo artist, and maybe that's not healthy. That last panel of him where he's delivering the line, I think, is very, very creepy, even though it's just, you know, a guy trying to act creepy. So I thought this was a very effective chapter to continue to build him up as the big hurdle that Akane is going to have to overcome in the future.
I agree. The audience, by the way, agreed with you 100%, Nick. Blue Box and Kaisei for character.
That never happens. Yeah. That never happens. I've done something wrong this week.
No, Nick, you're the voice of the people this week.
No.
They clamor to you.
Quinn, I'm supposed to be the contradictory dickwad. Can't have people agreeing with me like this?
You're like, it ruins my street cred.
Yeah. Right? I've got that. Yeah, that's the thing.
I think that's an interesting thing, because you're definitely the smart one of the podcast. Who's the cool one on the podcast? Neither of us, right? Like, we're both just gigantic losers, right?
This is just, you know, the puzzle with no solution.
Like, which one of us, like, this is the excursion. You drop the two of us in, like, the middle of New York City. Which one keeps our wallet for the longest? Like, which one has the street smarts to not to, like, survive the longest in New York? I don't know.
God. Oh, yeah. So if you ever want to find out about that, please don't try to. Guys, this has been Weekly Manga Recap. Thank you all for joining us. We record the show here on twitch.tv/RoloT Wednesday evenings starting at around 7:30 Eastern Time. You can also check out our Discord server to find out when exactly the show is going live, as a notification will go out, assuming that Quinn is allowed to send it out. We had a little bit of a hang up on that, where it's like, are you sure you want to tell people about this? Yes, we want people to know when we're streaming. Thank you.
Thank you, Discord.
Our show is recorded whenever we do this, and it is uploaded in audio format on weeklymangarecap.podbean.com, in video format on youtube.com/weeklymangarecap. You can also listen to the podcast in a few different places where podcasts can be listened to, like Spotify, presuming that they don't turn into whatever weird, terrible thing that they were advertising recently, and on iTunes. We also had, on the video version, we would like to thank people who helped make what it is. The opening sequence is done by Mala Jack Stillitz and Winslow Cheddar, and title cards are occasionally done by Steve Man. Wherever boobs are allowed to be drawn on the internet, by the way, you can find Steve Man's art under Steve Man Art. We also want to thank Ninja X3i for helping us to keep track of statistics that we would definitely never remember, considering the trouble we have with names, character names that we read every week. Who maintains the Google Doc, which can also be found via the Discord server. By the way, in addition to all that stuff, if you want to make like a recommendation for a future series for us to read, you can do it on there. You can also take part in the regular polls that determine like audience poll stuff for like best moments from the show, from the series that we read, etc. And be sure to just hang out with our Discord group if it sounds like you might want to talk about the manga that we talk about with the other people who listen to this podcast.
Yes, absolutely.
I think that's everything. So,
all
guys,
right.
thank you for joining us.
Well, we did it, Nick. We got to the end of the episode.
Yep, we've made it here. All that remains is to keep on digging until we strike gold.
Because there's gold up in them there hills there, Nick.
I was going to try and play it off, really quiet and subtle to kind of subvert expectations.
That's not what Hambone Jackson does. He shouts out that there's gold up in them hills. It's a warning. If you go to them hills, I'll kill you.
Wait, this looks... wait, it's like is the jug band thing like his warning cry to people?
That's like a rattlesnake warning. You've gotten too close. I'm actually a ghost. I haunt them there hills. Well, Nick, we made a bit too much noise, and now Professor Peanuts has woken up, so the episode officially has to end.
It's over.
Goodbye, everybody.